All right, let me just play the intro and then I'll pull you up on screen so I can share. It'll be on. It's on my page. We're live now. How's it going, everybody? We got Franco DeNicola's on with us today. We're going to get a State of the Union. I've got a question for Franco to get us started. I just want to tell y'all he's going to be coming on, I believe, in 3 hours with another one of his parts of his recent presentations that he's giving. If you haven't caught those, he'll fill you in on the details because I can't remember them all. But they're very, very informative. Let's see. How's that?
Okay, there we go.
¿Qué pasa, señor?
Hello, hello. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Always exciting to play with you.
What's that?
It's always exciting to play with you.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. And I'm going to bring something up, and it might irritate a couple of people, but I want to read something to you that I just read. Okay. And the reason I want to read it is because where you're coming from, what I love about your intel, there is a story to it. And the story really is, without getting complicated, you know, about the soul, about the monad, about what we do in these incarnations, whether it be on this planet or other planets, and what our natural nature is and what are we doing here, kind of thing. And what do we need to get worked up about and not get worked up about, and what do we need to focus on, and what are we doing here? So this is a couple of things I'm going to read real quick that will give us kind of the backdrop, and then I'll pop the question or reaffirm the question. So this is by somebody who's been on the show a couple of times. She's been out there quite some time, Victoria Lillenquist.
Oh, yes.
And, yeah, you know Victoria. So she says, she shares this message from Matt Bell in Iona, but she has some comments first. She says, I believe the message from Iona has some accuracy based on what I have been shown in my past visions and current awareness. It is wise to be prepared, and I encourage us to stay steady and strong, keep our focus on the divine destiny. My transmissions indicate the immediate concerns are real, but we must not panic. This will pass. And she goes on to conclude that. Now, a little bit from what she was citing, the corona is a cover-up for the largest U.S. military intelligence operation the world has ever known. The plan is to totally shut down the entire globe, massive arrests, evil in governments, bankers, blah, 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 Hollywood, Epstein, scandals, currency reset, and the Jasar law gets implemented, and we all live happily ever after. I'm not making fun of anybody. I actually respect these three people, and I don't know two of them. My point is, this is a topic of information. There's a lot of stuff on in the community and on the net and so on about it. But my question is kind of two or threefold. When does the story here become a distraction? You know, when does it become a distraction and start to distort or further distort or continue to distort our experience? And is there not a relevance to our real story? And the third part is it necessary that that real story come out publicly?
Well, it depends what the real story is. In a sense, what are we calling the real story? Like,
well, the real story is what I was referring to you with your intel, like what you talk about. If people listen to you speaking, what is the soul? What is the monad? Why do we come on these planets? What is our objectives? And so on and so on. Is that part of the story going to become mainstream in our experience here? So that was the third part of the question. Yeah.
Right. Oh, absolutely. At some point along the way, because the story exists in all of us. We already know the whole story. We understand where our true origin. We're not even talking about an origin from another planet, an origin from a different galaxy or universe or anything of that. Our true origin. And so this is being activated within us, and we start to recognize, okay, as much as I'm in a physicality, I've come here on this particular playground. As much as I know I'm source, I do not want to access that full level of sourceness while I play this game, or else it would be hard to play the game when you know what the game is, right? So in that regards, but as we go along right now, more of that memory is coming in. So really, what does that do for us? It basically changes the density of the game, meaning the getting lost in the game, so that we could actually play the game not only lighter but more expansive. Because if you look at the game of life right now, it's like in a cage, okay? Like we're in this box cage type of thing, where if you want to play here, you got to play by these rules. But the rules are rules that were made up at one point in time, which we come to play here to experience that. But now that cage is feeling for us that we're trapped in it, and it's like, okay, we no longer have to feel trapped. We no longer have to play in these at these levels, right? So now we're saying, okay, these are illusionary rules, illusionary bars, illusionary cage. So let's start stepping out of the cage. Now, of course, there's programs that we're operating saying, well, stepping out of the cage is dangerous because of the fact that, we don't know what's outside the cage because we haven't played there. But the only part that says that is the operating system that was imposed and we've taken on, because our true nature says, no, out of this cage, the potentiality is infinite. We can now be and experience any part of it. Yes, we may choose to play in a human body, which we call a human body, but at the same time, we're going to get to use a lot of the options and the capacities of the human body and the capacities that we bring into every aspect of ourselves. So when we look at this, we get a deeper understanding that that's really what's going on. So regardless, the point of whatever's coming up at this point, like the coronavirus, for example, and all of these other things that are coming up to the surface, it's really right now, the fear and everything else that's being triggered, this is purposeful, okay? See, the month of March, the focus is movement. Focus is change. Focus is getting on track with movement. So guess what? Then all of a sudden we have all this focus that builds up and builds up. And what it does, it shows us that we're in the cage more and more. Because the more it's stimulated, more we feel, oh my God, we got to be afraid, right? We got to be afraid to live, afraid to greet somebody or to even be around people. Now I have to start doing all of this stuff. But what happens, it seems like the cage is getting tighter and tighter. And then you go, why am I allowing these cages to get tighter and tighter? Do we have to even give any power to it? Can we just dissolve it? And this is what it's doing. It's actually self-pushing ourselves to the point where we get to the thing is, why am I even giving power to any of this? Really?
That was my point, really, basically. That was my point.
Yeah, you're not coming in so loud. I can't hardly hear you.
Try again. We're
Okay,
having lots
there.
of problems. We got lots of tree trimmers out here. But no, that was my point. That was my point. It's like, what's the difference between that and or anything else that's external that's taking our power away? It's like I don't have any fear of it. And I'm not saying I'm special or anything, but I think there's a lot of people that feel the same way. It's almost like, why is it there? You know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Let me bring up a point. I had a question just come up recently from someone, and they had a scenario happen out in their family, and they have to travel, right? Or the option of traveling because it was something to do. And the question was, is it safe to travel? You know, like all this fear about it, you know, going in an airplane, you're in a tight cabinet and you're breathing everybody. How about if there's somebody with the coronavirus or any other virus at this point? Are we going to catch it and whatever else? Would it be best to stay home, right? So my answer to them was, you know, you do what you feel guided to do, but the virus or any virus, this is no different, except that it's been hyped up, really. And the hyping up is not, you could say, well, okay, the hyping up is all of this back end stuff, the, you know, being the control structures and whatever else. But the control structures are serving us in a way, whatever they're playing out, so that we can see that we still live in a world of fear and self-trust issues. And when I say self-trust, meaning I'm not empowered to decide if I'm going to have an experience or not. So my point was to the person was, listen, if you need that particular experience to elevate or to change something in you or to trigger something in you, you can hide at home, or you could just be limiting all you want. That does not mean that you will not meet someone or something of some sort and that you're not going to catch it. Or you can choose at that point to travel or do whatever and be exposed to a lot of people, and you could still catch it. But the thing is, the choice is, do I need it or don't I need it? If you don't, it doesn't matter if you're at home or you're traveling, you're not going to have it, because in essence, you're the one that decides. And it's not this so much that goes, oh, I got to be afraid of it. That's the ego artificial intelligence that says we got to give power to this, but because we step out of, we are actually the designer of our experience. So if we're going to go, I'm going to be afraid of it, guess what part is afraid, right? It's the operating system that is artificial that we are purging out of our system and the stories attached to it, right? That's all it is. Because go ahead.
So in essence, it's no different than the individual. Say our individual stories, okay, and all the fear that it brought. And I guess what I'm saying is, to your point earlier, the energy is presenting itself to be transformed.
Right.
I mean, it's being put before us on an individual basis in our own way, for us to make a decision, basically, and no different than an old loop playing in our life or an old trauma that still got us, you know, keeping us blocked or whatever the case is. It's really a good thing because it's being put before us. And I guess that's why I brought it up, because we can't just push away our traumas. We've tried that. The subconscious stored it. It comes back up. We're all going through purging where things are presenting themselves. And we've said many times, why is this coming up? Well, it's coming up to be purged. So it's actually a good thing.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. And this, you know, look at the theme. The month of March, the theme is movement. And what stops us from movement? For example, like here's all this fear around, oh, we got to be afraid to go out, afraid to even shake hands with anybody. And I think I saw a video where some people would meet and they all have masks and they won't touch each other's hands. They would, you know, hit with their shoes, right? You know, that's their greeting now. It's like your both feet touch together with their shoes on, you know, and that was all we can do. So, you know, which I found humorous anyways, but in this whole thing, so here we are, movement, and then we are restricted to movement.
Yeah.
What's the restriction? The restriction is the power we give to the idea that there is something that's going to harm us, or the fact that we're really, it's not so much that somebody can harm you or anything can harm you, a virus or whatever it is. It's really us saying, oh, I'm a victim to whatever's going on because I'm not really in power. And all we're trying to do is remind ourselves that we are, and we have the choice to experience something or not. It's really in our hands. And I know some people may take this going, oh no, this is a real threat or whatever it is, but ask yourself, you know, I'll leave this exercise for people to do. Go into a quiet space in your own self and connect with yourself and say, okay, connect with your higher self. So put your attention in your heart and you say, okay, heart, higher self, soul, is this something to worry about? Okay, because I can tell you, if you actually tune into it, it says there's nothing to worry. We're here to play and whatever else, and we're only going to play with whatever is necessary and beneficial for us. If not, we're not going to do any of it, right? So when you look at it from that aspect, but if you're asking just yourself, should I be afraid of? And of course, the ego mind's going to go, well, look at that. Look, they shut down Italy right now, and they got the military over there. And look, and over here they got this.
But it's no different than having a past relationship with a narcissist, or somebody that you were afraid of and you liberated yourself. I mean, it's like, it's no different. It's just more magnified. And I love what you bring up too, because here we are with the polarities. This is the month of movement. And here you have this thing playing out on the opposite end. And this is the same thing that continues to be put before us over and over again in deeper and deeper ways. And that is, we make a choice. And then we talk about zero pointing, integrating polarities. But the bottom line is, the story is who we are, what we're a part of, and what you talk about. You talk about coming to these planets. It's a university and a playground. And of course, we've talked about this before, but I mean, you see it for what it is and you move on. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when we're tuning in more into ourselves and from a higher perspective, for example, it does not see any part of our experience in our life in any way dramatic or intense or restricted in any way. It sees it a very playfulness, right? Because I've worked with many people, but I've also, very attentive to, the journeys of life. And we can get into that at some point if you want to play with it. But, a celebration, a soul, when it wants to come and play up on planet Earth, there's such an excitement. It's like, wow, that's a beautiful playground. And even now, look at it. There's births every day, many, many, many births all over the world. These souls are ready to rock and roll. They're coming in and there's we got Corona, we got this or that. Man, I want to go in and play no matter what, because not only that, just because of the changes that are taking place right now so quickly. So it comes in with that knowing is this is a fertile playground, and that's what we want to do. And with all the changes that are going on is I want to be part of that, because I can go from one stage to the different stages along the way. Right. So there is a playfulness. So when you connect to that playfulness is very present in your beingness. It's really us going into the state of, listening to all of this, and I've had people say, well, aren't you concerned about what's going on? And I go, not at all. I mean, it's a beautiful dance, actually. It's a perfect timing for all of this, because it really allows us to show what we have the freedom to give power to.
It's a good sign. It's a good indicator, actually.
Yes.
It really is. One of the things that you bring, one of the many things that you bring to the table is some recollection of incarnations on other planets. How would you compare Earth to some of the things you can remember from these other incarnations?
Well, every planet and any physicality you take has a uniqueness, and it has a special journey. The one thing I noticed very intensely different on planet Earth from all the many, many planets, because my soul's been very, very, what we can call a planet jumper, which it goes in and samples and plays on different levels, and it doesn't really spend too much time anywhere. just to get its variety, to get exposure, right? So really, from the memories of all of the planets, and even in the parallel universe that has exactly planet Earth that is much more advanced, it's already in ninth dimensional consciousness, which is the last place I went to get kind of bearings, or what I call, not Franco bearing, it was more the soul bearing, to be able to come here and play the role I needed to play. One of the things it was that this planet here, as much as these bodies are so amazing, and the programming and the operating system of Gaia and the planet itself and everything that's there is so amazing, it also has that opposite where it's been so closed up and everything else. So what gets thrilling about here is, like, if you can make progress here, it's amazing, but at the same time, it's almost like a badge of honor to come on planet Earth, in a sense of saying, like you say, the human is the hero, and it's like, oh, you went on planet Earth and you actually came through that and had even recollection of who you are, and made all that is like pinnacle an achievement, I guess, of sorts, if you want to call it that. Now, the soul doesn't come to get that credentials, but at the same time, it is revered in that way. So the intensities that's happening now here, and what has been, it is very polarized, or has been very polarized, and even that's changing. But to be able to come here and play at that level, it almost seems like unfathomable from a soul perspective. It's like, oh, really? You can get that lost until you get here, and then it's like, it's not the soul that gets lost, it's all the other aspects of it, because there's a body involved with the body conscious. There's a human entity with its own built-in consciousness, and then there's the overall mind. But everything that surrounds it, everybody that's playing here, kind of tries to put you in place to say, okay, we all have to fit there. But look at one other thing. Even with whatever's been going on right now with the corona and so forth, and it's like any false flags or anything else that may have played. I'm not saying that this is kind of the same, well, it has similarities, but look at how much sides you have. You have the mainstream pushing fear. The other one is dissecting every part. Oh yeah, this is what it is. It's, man-made, it's this and that. It's no worse than any other flu, blah, 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 whatever it is. People die all the time from all of this stuff and whatever else. So it's dissecting it and showing it, so that you're actually now offered polarity. It's not like a polarity.
Exactly.
But the polarity is not a polarity. It's an option. Like, there's path. Do I go into this? Which you can. And then you always have the freedom to go the other way, where it's saying, well, I have the deeper understanding here. And do I choose to continue believing whatever is being perpetuated, right? So can you walk around and say, I'm not afraid of this, because you're in charge, and that you can have whatever experience you choose. So you never used to see that before, because whatever the mainstream was said, everybody went diving into it. Now it's like, no, we're going to look a little closer.
Yeah, of course. And this is no different. I mean, many of us have one way or the other, and actually there was a quite a bit of it happening since December, where we are distanced from our family and friends. There's a reason that we are. There is a atmosphere that we've chosen at some level to step away from. And what you're saying is, it's not just an incredible opportunity to examine two polarities, because to your point about Earth, there's such a wide field in between the polarities here, but it's also a choice.
Yes.
We can make a choice. We're conscious now, and we can make that choice. And I've seen people doing that. I talked to a guy who is waking up, and he said, I can't step out of what I'm doing until my parents pass. I've got to take care of my parents. And on one hand, I can see what you're saying with that. And on the other hand, I see, well, if he's already thinking that, his soul's already nudging him the other way. You know what I mean? So it's like a conveyor belt.
Yeah. let me bring out a point what you said there about the stepping away from family. There's two sides to that I want to point out. The first side is by stepping out, you're not going to be in their environmental energies and their state of consciousness and so forth. Okay. So that you can actually ground yourself more to yourself. That's the first part. And that's, people get obvious to that part a little bit more easily than the second part. The second part is you stepping away allows them to go into the depth of whatever game they're playing so they can reach a saturation point without you diluting it by having a contradictory or what they would consider contradictory energy. So in fact, you're almost like the life raft, and you're telling them, I want you to learn how to swim, but you're the life jacket in a sense. So by you stepping away, you're removing the life jacket, and then they have to actually start to experience the sinking or drowning part so that they can actually step in and start swimming. So that parting sort of thing from family is dual fold. Yeah. It's you to continue to flourish and them to go into the depth of it without you kind of interjecting a little bit. And even if you don't say anything, you're interjecting energetically. So it's a gifting for both parties. Yeah. And this is what's happening.
Now you brought up a minute ago parallel universe where you went to a higher developed Earth before you came here.
Correct.
What is that in relation to us? Is real time, same time, higher versions of all of us, higher version of the Earth, Akashic? What is that? And is there any importance to tapping into that particular realm?
It's available to us already. We can tap into that energy, but you know what it is? It's a planet Earth. The operating system is slightly different, and it did not have the inverted stuff done to this degree. They did experience some of it, the inverted matrix part, but it was not to the same degree as we had here. So they moved out of that a long time ago. So it's in real time. It's not like those existences occur. Like the same way that we exist here, there are multiple existences within the same field, of course, that are, experiencing other aspects of ourselves. So there is a version of humans that are quite advanced in state of consciousness. When I say advanced, that means that they've moved to a point where they've used more of their level of sourceness in their creation and in their playground. So to look at the difference, just to give you a comparison, there it's very communal based, and not the community that we believe here. It's a community where they have created an environment where everybody is free to express and experience their divinity, their gifts and whatever they have to offer without having all of the stuff we have now. I mean, there's no such thing as money, have to do work to survive or anything of that nature, or even having pollution and all of that stuff or industry or anything of that nature. Of course, they create things they're more technically advanced, which we have the capability to do so. Yes.
So are we, okay, two-sided question. Are we the center of something multidimensional, and are we collapsing these parallel universes, so to speak, parallel Earths into one timeline?
Well, there's different types of parallel Earth. There's parallel Earth within our solar system, galaxy, and our present universe. Then there are something that looks like Earth, has a lot of similarities. Those are in different universes. Eventually, yes, they all merge, but that's way down the road. Not in this lifetime.
Are we center of that? I mean, I suppose any point in the universe is the center, but I mean, is there something a little bit different about what we're doing? I mean, why are we conscious you know, as humans all the time. And I know that's changing, but I'm just saying, are we at the center? Are we affecting even that parallel Earth that's in the same universe?
Well, all existence affects all existence because we're all in that same what we call platform or canvas. Okay, we're all part of the same canvas, so all of it affects it in one way or another. Now, there's a few things here. Planet Earth affects our whole solar system, what's going on within all the planets in the solar system, but it also, because we're the hub of the quadrant of universe. So there's 4 hubs in our universe. Our hub, our quadrant, we have 400 planets or 400 solar systems with planets and so forth within that universe or within our universe. The point, planet Earth was made as the hub, so it was a connection point. And that the whole purpose was, and that's why the bodies were designed the way they were designed. The planet was designed the way it was so that we would be able to interact. Like, for example, you would have an international, just as an example, an international hub which connects through to the world as an example. So it would be a hub to connect all of those, that whole quadrant, right? Yeah. So when it deviated in the direction it did, it was okay, let it play its course, let's see what it can do. But now it's kind of, we want to bring it back online, which it did, but we need to align with all the other solar systems within that quadrant of the galaxy that have already advanced considerably compared to where we're advanced. So this is why the great interest of our galactic brothers, sisters, you know, souls working with us. That's why many of the souls that are coming in are being ignited. Others are coming in already lit up in the sense of carrying a very specific energy. But those energies were already energies that we already have that have gone dormant. So it's really just stimulating all of that stuff. So, you know, like even the series that I'm doing, and it was a very powerful push that you need to do this. And it doesn't matter, you know, don't make it just a workshop. It has to get out there publicly. So, because it's triggering the memory we have inside. The information may seem new to the mind because it hasn't had that access, but to the soul, it's like, yes, I fully relate, I fully understand it, and it's almost like a permission slip to say, okay, I can now play there because it's been reconfirmed, and I already know it, and I know that feels whatever it feels like. So this is what's really going on. So a lot of these souls that are coming in, they're really reactivating the dormant codes that we have inside. Of course, we've been receiving a lot of updated codes, and we have been for quite a while, but you know, every so often we get a truckload of them, I guess you want to call it.
Like the last few days?
Well, the last few days have been interesting too. Like this month has been very interesting in itself because we've been having a lot of, if you've seen it, the Schumann Hertz frequency has been really high and up and down with lots of openings in between, allowing us to integrate within our own energies, right?
Sometimes.
So the last few days have been, you know, powerful and energetic. I shouldn't say shove because it's not that. It's almost like a self-stimulation, but then we've been running into clashing, and that's the clashing is our old stuff that we believe, you know, and the fear and whatever else that comes in. So that's kind of assisting us to not only purge it, but also for us to connect with that so we can go into movement. And this is the thing. And this is why the series even came out at this time, because we just started it. And this is like week 3, right? So because it was like, wait, no, got to go now. It's got to be done because of all of this that was going in now, because movement is moving and there's a reception, is that a word? I think it's something like that. Receptive, can't even say it. Anyways, we are more receptive to it right now for me. It's not for everybody, right? Because a lot of them are still wanting to get into the density, play in the density part. But many of us are stepping into this. So yes, the energies have been pretty intense, but the beautiful part about it, it's really bringing more and more of our true essence out by, you know, shaking it out of us, I guess, in a way, if you want to call it that.
You said that, you know, March is about movement.
Yes.
In relation to the last 4 or 5, 6 days, because everybody's talking about it. Was there, to your knowledge, was there something specific being cleared or specific being activated, or was it a myriad of things?
Yeah, it was more of a myriad of things, but it wasn't so much specifics, but it's just put it this way. Say you got this cluster of energy within you with programs and so forth. What each pulse of the energy is, it kind of hit it in different directions and coming from different viewpoints and activation points, so that it's becoming not only more present, but it's also loosening out of us to the point where, let's put it this way. Some people have felt, you know, and this is kind of what I've tuned into people, is that you get to a point where you want to cry it out. You know, it's like, it's getting so in your face sort of thing. It's like, but that's really just a release field that you go through. And it's just, okay, I'm just going to let it flow. I mean, let it flow, whatever it needs to go through. So you're correct about being a myriad, because you can't really say it was only this. Okay. It's more of that. The other thing we'll notice, I mean, I think it's a full moon tonight or today, whatever it is.
Tonight, yeah.
Yeah. So it's something to pay attention to how it feels, because with all of this stuff that's prepared for us, it's going to feel very different again, because what's happening is the moon itself is no longer really affecting us. But what's happening is the memory and the representation of what a full moon represents has been really coming up for us. But with the last 6 days or so of what we've been going through, it's actually now breaking down the response mechanism and the auto default for, oh, this is what it goes. I mean, a friend of ours is staying with us had also said earlier today when we were talking about every time they had a full moon, that they had the highest rate of people checking into the hospitals with, you know, symptoms and whatever else was going on. In fact, stabbing each other, whatever it is. But now that is not relating the same way. There is still an increase, but it's not to the same levels before.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning this more than once, especially as we were headed into the pre-December 16th or 21st. And then January 16th was another date. But I remember you saying that what the moon had been functioning as, you know, for 10,000 years when the deal was redone. And then I remember you saying that part of the, one of the byproducts of the inverted matrix not being projected anymore was that the moon would obviously no longer do that, but would also be some type of amplifier. I think it's what you said, that some type of amplifier. And I guess that's kind of what you're saying. It's actually assisting us in becoming more aware, I guess, quicker than we have been.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's actually, in a way, the role that it's playing is in reverse now compared to what it was originally put in, where before it was not to become more aware and more open and whatever else. It was the opposite. It did everything possible to bring you into a state of 2D or inverted 3D, or keep you in inverted 3D and then push you to 2D, where now it's actually playing the other way. So you're getting the blast of the day and the blast of the night, but the night is just a similar frequency to what the sun is sharing, but at a lower intensity to keep things moving. For example, before you would have elevation, and then, so say that's your plateau line, you had elevation in the daytime, and then you would actually go below. So now it's, this is your plateau, you get the elevation, but now it's only going down to here because it's still supporting, so that you're not, you know, losing the momentum that's been started. And so the momentum only builds up each and every day, rather than have momentum and then you get the kick. And then whenever the full moon came in, the kick was really hard to bring us right down, where that's not playing out. However, if we believe it and expect that that is still affecting us, we will create a simulation. And I want to say that very clear, a simulation because of the operating system that we have in there that still says we need to feel this way. So we simulate that. And because we have so much memory of what that feels like, it doesn't take too hard to simulate it because, oh yeah, I know what it felt like. This is what happened. Every time the full moon came in, I was ready to have fur growing on me and I would be howling outside or something, I'm just being playful there. But
just out of curiosity, obviously the planetary movements and such have been a part of since the primitive, sent down from oral histories thousands of years. In your opinion, does the motion of the cosmos, the alignment of the cosmos, the precession of the equinox, whatever, does it did it have the same kind of role as the moon? Was it just reinforcing kind of a hamster in the wheel kind of routine? Can we view it in the same way we view the moon now, as it is enhanced, helping us, not dictating us?
Yes, absolutely. So the thing is, it always been an enhancement. The only difference was that a lot of the enhancement was code-based. So the codes that we had in ourselves that were very what reflected the inverted matrix. So now, in fact, the enhancement is actually helping us the other way.
Yeah.
And because our whole solar system is moving through the galaxy. Okay, so it gets aligned with other energy patterns, with other solar systems and so forth. And because each solar system, including planet Earth, our solar system, is emanating all the time, there's always an exchange. So its movement and its positioning now is gaining things that we weren't able to gain before, but it's all working very magnificently because it's actually bringing us to a state where we can evolve a lot quicker with a little bit more ease. The level of change that we're experiencing now, there's so much contribution happening on so many levels because of it, so many levels to help us go through this. But the key we have to remember is that it's still us doing what we're doing. It's not outside of us. It's not like, something else is doing this for us. No, we're doing it together. Those energies are just really igniting us to be able to make the changes.
Yeah. And it's like you were saying earlier too, with the planetary stuff. In anything really, I guess it's going to get down to us letting go and detaching of anything we believe, period. Like, if we're going to go out and be, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but say an extreme astrologist or an extreme of this or an extreme of that, these things we're going to have to let go of at some point, aren't we? If we let go of the moon having any bearing on us, then it will no longer have a bearing on us, I guess. But it would just seem that we're going to be stripped of everything, and it just gets deeper and deeper.
Yeah, so the astrology thing, it will play a role, but it's going to play a different role because the role before was that you're affected by it and you didn't have much say in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like it's a opportunity.
Yeah.
Here it is. You have the choice to take what's offered or to do it solo and shift into whatever you choose. So, for example, all of us have come through an encodement from astrology. Okay, so whatever the houses we're in and whatever the different energy patterns, those were all starting points or a baseline operating system that we've taken on, and it's reflective in our characteristics and some of our tendencies and so forth. However, we've always had the option, which we didn't believe was so before, the option to say, okay, when I'm done with the influence of all of this, I can step out of that and no longer. So you could read your astrology and say, this, and you can be exactly on, or you can start noticing, oh, that's not affecting me anymore. That's not part of me anymore, whatever it is, because what's happened, you started turning off certain parts that do not, support you on who you are becoming, because it's not necessary any longer. So it's still offered as a guideline based on whatever it is, but how much it changes. Because if you could look at your own reading, you look at it and say, oh yeah, I can relate with these things in different stages of your life. But now you're getting to a stage in your life where many of them could have been neutralized already, because it no longer, it serves you any longer, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what's changing is, how much do we use? When do we want to use it? Because it's optional to when you use it, or you don't use it anymore at all along the way. Because eventually, when you get into that more empowered state, everything is created without any influence. You basically, your true aspect of yourself and what you want to experience is in your fingertips, and you can adjust how you want to experience. And this is the thing. Sometimes people have various, well, I shouldn't say sometimes, everybody has a particular enhanced characteristics about themselves based on, the star signs or whatever else. Well, what happens along the way, you'll notice that you can turn on and off any of that influence. And not only that, so you're going to only turn it on if it's absolutely beneficial for whatever you're doing. But if it's not, you keep it off. Yeah. And then eventually you find that you don't need any of it, because now you're such fluid and you can plug in and bring in anything else, because you have to look at each characteristic that is guided by astrology at this point is very finite. It's like, this is it, right? Type of thing. Well, what happens is that's okay while you're playing in the structures, but as you're going along, you find that finite is no longer serving who you're becoming. So you basically say, no longer, I'll flip that one off. Doesn't matter whatever it is, because you're not going to have that.
Which is the same pattern as everything else, right? I mean,
absolutely.
like say you went and got a certificate or a degree or diploma, and I am now this professional, and you evolve, and it doesn't serve your soul. Basically, it could be family, could be friends, could be relationship, could be habits, but it's the same pattern, isn't it? So it's to what you're saying. You're basically saying that at one point it was kind of a dictating energy. As a certain point of awakening, it becomes both. It can be what you want, right? I mean, there's certain energies available you can attach to or not attach to, and kind of change the game, basically.
Yeah. So you can call it in, you can activate it temporarily, use it, turn it off. That's what happens right now. Up to this point in time, we've believed that we didn't have that option, and the fact of turning it on and off was, you didn't even think of it, right? But now it's becoming that. But you're true, because as you're moving along, you'll notice that our true nature is very fluid. So you're just basically creating each moment, whatever experience you want, and there's no guidelines. You're not going to have rails that say, this is you, and I can't get off. It's like the train, has to follow the rails because it's designed for that. But in essence, even a car has to follow the roads. And sometimes you have some vehicles that can go on different terrains. But what you're doing is you're going into a state of hovering, so you can go over any terrain, because you have free movement, and you don't have to go one way. You can go in all different directions, and you can go straight up, and you can go whatever. That's really what the true human is designed to be. The true human experience is that, without any rails, without any boxes.
I'm sticking around till it happens. I'm not gonna. But so in regard to your recollections and experiences, incarnations, what you connect with daily, where you come from, basically how you're composed. If somebody, because it is starting to become accepted that we can connect to anything. And if we just talk about our own multidimensional aspects, we can connect to any of them, If you had to offer some advice to someone who's like wanting to explore and expand in I guess, the quickest, easiest way, with ease and grace. Is there a particular, like say, for instance, the parallel Earth that's in the same universe that you mentioned, or a specific galactic, or is there something specific that you would reach out to, or that you would advise someone to reach out to in their own multidimensionality first at this stage?
Yeah, it depends on what state they're in. If they're in the state of, just starting to get out of that, more of that amnesia that we've been playing, then I would say the best way to connect to start connecting with what you have tangibly with you. So first of all, you can connect with your own soul, which is multidimensional essence, and is another aspect of sourceness itself. So you can start tapping into that. Just there already opens huge. That also expands to your oversoul, which is connected to your monad, or what you can call your soul family, and that already gives you. You have your twin soul. You have your other 22 other souls that make that cluster of that oversoul, and that's only the first level. So that's that part of it. You can already get a lot of input there, because most of these souls are not even on this planet. They will share from other dimensional states and so forth. That's the first. You can also connect with, if you want to understand the human experience a little bit more, you can connect with your human entity and even the body itself. But you also have another transmitter, which is basically a transmitter receiver, which is basically your third eye. So, just going through the process of opening that eye, and that is just putting the focus there and able to see, you can now download much more in respect to other dimensional states of being that are outside of your monad, or outside of your, what you call your oversoul. But I would start from the soul perspective already, unless you've already connected with that. As for the galactic stuff and whatever else, once you're ready, that aspect of you will, open up channels to connect with you, because there's people that are already starting to channel or whatever it is. I'm not saying to give power to that, because again, a lot of people say, well, I need to channel because I need this information. But just the amount that you have already available within you is already mind-blowing as it is. Okay. And I say that literally, because the mind-blowing part is all the different compartments that we've created. This is acceptable, not acceptable, and so forth. And those compartments are the parts that are breaking up. So every time you get exposed to even these conversations and exposed to connecting with ourselves, we're actually wearing down or breaking down those compartments. And also the stories and programs that we have given power to it starts to become weaker and questioned, so that you're actually turning it off, or just really just purging it in that sense. So I would say start, connecting with yourself, because the tendency with people, and I'll share this with you because I found this the tendency is that I'm limited, and something outside of me is more powerful, much more informative, or whatever it is. And that's not the way it works. You are just the same as any other aspect. Yeah. We're not talking about the human mind part. The human mind is, but what the program is working, it's going to have a differentiation too. But when it comes to, when I've asked people many times when, they're going through challenges, have you connected with yourself? Have you actually asked your higher self or your true essence? Yeah. What can I learn from it? What can I shift from here? How does it serve? And the question is very different. Let me make this clarify. If you're going to go and ask the question to your higher self, why is this happening to me? Is a very different question and a very limited question. But if you go to your higher self and say, listen, I would love to understand the message that is being provided at this time so I can shift and become more in alignment. You're now opening the channel to communicate at a whole different level. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because you're not going, why? Or the other thing I want to throw in, and this is really important for everybody that's listening at this time, and when they repeat, to really write this down and remind yourself each time. The other thing is, too, most times we're asking our soul or higher self, what can I do to fix this? Okay. It's not about that. You don't ask that. You basically say, okay, I'm having this particular scenario and experience, and I appreciate its presence. However, there's a message or there is something that I need to look at so I can adjust it, so I can come in alignment. Please share what I'm not seeing. Okay. Yeah. That opens up again another channel, instead of, why did that person say this to me, and whatever it is, and all of that stuff, because there's so much distraction out there, even in the spiritual community. I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm just,
I get you.
This is beneficial for everybody. we're all going through this, and we've all gone through this. Is, if you're giving power to right, wrong, good, bad, then basically that's a distraction. If you're looking at everything as an experience, and I'd like to understand what's here, because everything that we experience is our self-directed gift and opportunity that we provide ourselves so that we can blossom or bring ourselves to the next level. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. So if you use it that way, it's powerful.
Yeah, I think the question thing is really important. This came up with us a couple of days ago, because a few days ago, we sat down, she connected, I was going to ask questions, right? My questions were, what can I do? What can we do? And what came back was the answers in the question, right? Well, I took it to a certain point and I was satisfied. I knew I wasn't in fear, but at the same time, nothing clicked. Now, we went through 4 or 5 days of expansion. We came back together, we reviewed, and the questions there were still questions. What she received is, there are questions, but it's not the way we asked them, because it's rooted in, like, say, the 3D or fear-based programming. So it's, how can I, in other words, how can I serve? Show me, it's along the same lines of what you're saying. It's the same thing, but you're coming from, an open heart, not in fear, and to serve, which is what we're all headed for.
Yeah. So in a sense, you can word it in a fashion where I am now feeling that I'm ready to serve in a bigger way. Can you show what I need to adjust, connect with, or whatever it is, or whatever is in alignment, so that I can be more of service? As long as it's in full alignment for everything that is looking for that service right now, in alignment for myself and whatever else. So by putting it that way, you get more cooperation, you get more clarity around it. What can I do next? It has its limits. So it's like, I am ready and I see that I can be of more of service. I may be wrong. You could say that. I may be not wrong, but I may be misunderstanding it, or maybe I feel something else, but I am feeling this. So can you share what the next step is, and what alignments are there, what alignments I need to become in alignment to that. So it's really how you ask, because most times, if we look at it, Todd, I mean, we all go through it. I remember years ago with people saying, I ask God all the time for this, and this. And I go, let's review what you're asking. Let's take a look at the shopping list you got, right? And it's always, I want this, why is this, blah, 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 all of that. And I go, you're going in with a shopping list, right? And it's not quite the way. And it's the same thing with your higher self. You're not going to go in with a shopping list. Well, why this, why that, why can I do this, and whatever else, and I feel this and whatever. You got to go, okay, listen, let's work together. This is the first thing you have to say. I choose from this point to really be in alignment with you, to work together, because we're a team. It's a team. And you don't exclude any part. You bring the body in, you bring your human entity, you bring your soul in, and say, okay, we're the team. We're ready. Show us whatever. And if we're not ready, and if there's some obstacle still there, show me that, so we can work on it together. It's a team effort. And you get more supported in that team, rather than, can you fix this for me?
Yeah.
Right? Because.
Yeah. So you, in December, the inverted matrix projection ceased. In January, everything was full blown, right? I mean, it was
the 2020 energies, and
2020 energy was full blown. Yeah. Earlier, you made a statement that sometimes when we're crying or in that state, we've actually just cleared something. So my question is, from December 21st through today, because of those two events and all the other energy that's assisting us, I guess, in our own work, do you think that there's a significant number of people that have maybe accelerated dramatically that may not know it because it does come with those moments of depletion or whatever you want to call it?
Yes, absolutely. And that is an excellent point, because there are many, many people right now that have been, stimulated in a very powerful way in regards to all of that's been happening since then. However, it's like you're turning on the light, but you're still making the light brighter and it's seeping a little bit more, but you still have these layers that you're still working on. And these layers are older versions of you that have taken on programs that are, you're still dealing with it. So you're still working through it. But the thing is, the illumination that's happening is not only seeping through, but it's also weakening a lot of those layers. So they actually come up to the surface a lot quicker. I mean, anybody that's actually in any form of fast track right now with whatever's going on within themselves will notice that things are coming in and out a lot quicker than ever because of that. So yes, the answer to what you're saying is that there's many, many more people that have been stimulated, activated in such a fashion so that we can move through. Because remember, we have a 3-year window that we've set up so that we want to be purged everything out that represented anything of the 2D, inverted 3D, inverted matrix ego within the 3-year window, which is basically this year is the first year, right? And we have 2 other years after that. That doesn't mean you have to wait 3 years to do it. You can do it all in within a few months, but we've put a cutoff date at that point. And if it means that we have to turn up the heat, as a collective energetically, and we got to get one burst after the next, we'll do it, because that's what we've agreed as a collective. This is not being imposed or thrown at anybody at saying, oh, suck it up, or too bad, because you have no choice. No, we have a choice. The ego mind will like to say differently, because it's saying, oh, no. I didn't give okay with it, because my job is to keep you in the inverted 3D, inverted matrix, and 2D state of being, because that's my job, right? That's the ego's job. But the other parts of you saying, no, our job is to become more who we truly are and come here for what we came here to do, which was come to play and to experience life and to bring this whole human experience to the next level.
You talked about February would be colorful. After a grinding January, you said February is going to be colorful, and you had a big smile on your face.
Yes.
And then you said March is going to be about movement.
Yes.
What does April look like? I don't mean to get ahead of myself, but I just want to try to decipher it this time ahead of time.
Well, you will find in April, there's a stimulation, that energetic stimulation, to bring your source essence, more of your source essence, to the surface. Okay, so that's the motive. It's okay. How can I say it? The energies that will come in will actually upgrade that part of you. Okay, for April. Then May is bringing more of that essence that's been stimulated, recoded, more to the surface. So you will notice your true essence, or your source essence, will be more blossoming in around the May time. Because in June, we're actually going into another stage, which
I know
it's not something I can talk about yet.
You're not going to disclose.
And I don't have all the details either, because they know I have a big mouth. So
yeah, right. No wonder we're friends. So how can I or anybody else facilitate, beginning today, let's just say, through what you're describing in April and May, facilitate the source energies or the source essence to come to the surface?
Well, the more we share what we share, the more we, look at things very openly. As long as we, if you get into conversations where, the polarity is not part of it, and you're actually reminding people of themselves blossoming or whatever else, it actually opens them up more to allow all of that's happening within them to move a lot quicker and with much more ease, right? So even bringing clarity, and this is the reason, we're sharing what we're sharing, because it brings clarity. Because a lot of times people say, yeah, okay, now I can resonate with this. I understand what's going on and whatever else. And it brings an ease to it. So it's not like, I got to hold on. It's like, oh, that's what's really happening. Okay, why am I holding on? Okay, I'm going to let it go. And if it sticks around or hangs around, it's just because it still needs to hang around, but I'm not going to at least try to grab it and hold it down. So people relax. And the same thing with when the intensities come up with themselves. If they have an understanding where there's a level of clarity, because the clarity is you're stimulating that clarity within themselves. And it's like, oh, that makes not only sense, I'd like to participate in letting it go. So how can I do that? I'm not going to give it any power to say, okay, I have to do that opposite part. I'm open to it, right? So really it's an openness, and the clinging on is the part that, we have to get to a point and say, okay, if it's really, really important for me to hold on to any facet of my older self, then so be it, let it be. But I'm not going to purposely hold on to it and cling on to it because I'm afraid to let it go, or because I'm afraid to lose myself. This is a big one for people. I'm not going to know who I am. One of the biggest thing I keep hearing from people, well, if my ego goes, how do I know who I am?
Yeah, they're just getting to that point now. That reminds me of that meme where the guy's got the noose around his neck. He's about to be hung, and they're like, say something like that. He goes, "Oh, this is your first time," But no, I was going to ask you something. I'll keep going. I'll remember.
Okay. Yeah. So the thing is, the ego, the thing is, well, if I lose the ego, I don't know who I am. And, my answer has always been, you let go of the ego, you really get to see who you are. Because you have the small version of you, which is a projected idea of you. But because look, the ego itself, for example, I've seen people that have been high powered in their world of playing whatever game that they play. It comes to a point in their life where they can't play the game anymore, either because they're retired or because of the fact that they're no longer need to play there. And then they go into this depressed state going like, now who am I? I'm not the executor or what do you call it? Executive or CEO for this company, or I'm not this doctor anymore, or now I'm not this anymore. And then there's an identity crisis that comes along. But where's that identity crisis? Because it's really the ego's idea that, oh, yeah, you're esteemed because you're a doctor. You're esteemed because you're a lawyer. You're esteemed because you're well known out there in the public eye because of the roles that you played. You could see those are all compartments. They're all small versions of you. But the moment you're able to let go of all of that, and the ego compartmentalized version of you, you get to see the bigger version of you. You get to see who you truly are. And then you start to play at that level. You're no longer limited to just an idea, because that's what happens. You get locked up in an idea of who you are, rather than seeing who you are. And then by seeing that, you appreciate whatever game you're playing, like the game of the human game on what we call planet Earth. You now have a deeper appreciation. And the other thing that's beneficial, you're not going to have the fear of playing the game, because now you know who you are. You know you're infinite. You know that you're, multi, whatever you want to call it, dimensional and everything else, that you are actually source. And
that's what
the whole game is different.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to earlier when I was saying, do you think that there's some people, a group of people that have accelerated dramatically up to this point since late December, and because of the downtime or the depleted moments, they're not really realizing just what's occurred, and that to me is this understanding that I got at a deeper level, I've got nothing to fear here. Things are actually creating. Every time something clears, something is attracted. I mean, it's like just 1 2 1 2 1 2, you know. I wanted to ask you too, and I don't know if this is relevant, but I'm just moved to ask you. So over the last 4 or 5 6 days, I've had these moments, and I've been alone, you know, in these moments. I've been doing my own thing and like going for a walk or to the beach or just hanging out, whatever. And there's, to me, it's like some type of transfer. It's affecting my field to the extent that all of a sudden my view, my vantage point from my apparent body, it goes up. Like I become taller
Mhm.
all of a sudden. And I want to say, like, you know, I'm 6 feet too, so I want to say like 9, 10 feet. There's no bells or whistles or lightning or, you know, it's just I'm standing there and I'm like, wow, this is, you know, how's this happening? You know, like what's going on here? Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, it does. So in essence, what you're doing is getting a taste of other aspects of yourself in the sense of whatever you've experienced before, because some of the physicalities are larger, but it's not only the size that's the thing, it's the viewpoint of it. So you're seeing it from a set of different eyes in a different perceptual state. So in fact, what may have looked like something huge and intense or something that you have to overcome, from that you see it very differently. So
Yeah,
uh,
and that's really that's a good point because I yeah, because it's with that vantage point, there's a different, and it's not unfamiliar. There's a different voice.
mhm,
It's a voice
yes.
I know, and it feels like there's a transfer happening. You know, it feels like because the first time it happened, I was standing outside the RV and I thought, well, maybe you're just tired. And then it went away. And then it kept coming back. I went for a walk. I went to the beach. And it wasn't like anything I'd experienced before because it very much, and there was a higher awareness or perspective. It was very cut and dry. There was no questions. It was just, and, you know, but it also had that seemingly physical effect. And I was just like, but it was a familiar voice at the same time.
Mhm.
To me, it just feels like I don't know, it feels like a transfer of consciousness almost, and like that it's coming in the door basically. And I don't know if it's one of many or just another elevation or what, but yeah, I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, that's the part of the transfer that you mentioned. In a sense, there's other lay or other aspects of yourself within yourself that your soul has experienced and so forth that is actually bringing that in more into the equation, because it wants to use different reference points as a way of observing things so that it actually expands you so that you're not limited to only a small channel. So it just allows more
Yeah.
different channels. It's like, you know, the question a lot of times people, well, I'd like to really get an understanding what an alien would see, for example. So you say, okay, a Pleiadian or something. Well, I would like to really understand what, a Pleiadian's viewpoint would be looking at planet Earth or something of that nature, and also what it would represent being in a physical form here at that time. So in essence, you're really doing that to yourself and saying, okay, let me just experience that part of it. I really want to get that viewpoint. So you're basically bringing that into your way of observing and consciousness in a sense. So that's really what's coming up. I was going to say something. I just slipped my mind. Something about fear, but I can't
It
remember
happens
what that
to me.
was. Right?
It happens to
Um,
me. Um, Aaron Starseed made this comment. It's difficult to find words to describe what we're experiencing these days, and I think that is somewhat challenging. So, but I agree with what you said earlier. Like, how do you facilitate that? I mean, obviously there's more than one way, but one way I think is talking about this stuff because stuff does. It seems like when you have these conversations, things do present themselves and things come into alignment.
well, yeah, and this, the thing is, we have to look at like the the conversation and whatever is being brought up and even shifted within the conversation is not localized. It is worldwide. So even there, if no one's paying attention, that field is going right throughout the whole planet. That whole conversation, that whole awareness, that whole stimulation, energetically and otherwise. Because as these conversations are taking place, we're also calling in those energies. So a lot of times these energies that we're feeling on the planet is because of the fact that there's so much more conversation, much more deeper understanding. So it's like triggering spectrums of light, or filaments of light throughout, and everybody's connected to it. So everybody's getting a pulse of it within them, their holographic expression and their source essence within it. So that's the beauty of it. So this is why it's great to have these type of conversation, and really and then what adds to the oomph, if you want to call it that, to whatever is that everybody that's listening and a shift is happening within themselves, they're also radiating. So it's not just localized by two people streaming throughout the planet. It's each one wherever they are, because they're all over the world. And as they listen to it, they light up and they put out bursts, and these bursts are layers and layers of bursts. Just imagine like explosions of light from, and when I say light, I'm talking about spectrums of light with consciousness throughout the world, like explosions all over the place. But those are pulses of more stimulation and more. So sometimes, I'd like to say that it's not just what our brother, sister souls are doing. It's also what we're doing, what we are doing, what shifting in us, because, each month's worth of energies and whatever else that's going on and the themes and so forth is just because we're calling in the themes and we're experiencing the theme within ourselves, and we're just birthing it basically everywhere.
Yeah. Now you've got, if I'm not mistaken, you've got another in your series, and I think the last time I counted there was about 11 of them. Some of them might have been extra ones, but the last time I went to YouTube, there was, I think, either 11 or 12 when you started that particular channel. But I believe you're on in an hour and a half. If you could explain a little bit about what the series is. You've talked about what initiated it, but what the series is, what tonight's session is about, and where you're going with it.
Okay, so the purpose of the series was to really trigger people's inner knowing, memory, and also to kind of answer some questions in their mind that they're asking, even though we're not responding to questions to the same degree where we're just talking about what the question is, but we're tuning in and seeing, okay, this is what they need next and whatever else. So we cover different things along the way. So the last 3 of series, so we've had 6 episodes. We had the introduction, and then I've had 6 episodes, but this last episode 6, it's got 4 parts to it. I thought we were going to get wrapped up in 3 parts, but then, it seemed like it needed more. So tonight is part 4 of episode 6. So if you're looking at it, there was 7 and plus 3 more. So there's 10. And then there was some extra stuff we put in there. But so and the purpose of all of this is, again, it's just really to trigger their own knowing, bring clarification, and also feeling more comfortable with themselves, what's really occurring. Because right now we get a lot of feedback from all the other stuff that's going on. But, again, I'm not sharing anything when it comes to polarity or anything of that nature, because that's not my soul. When it's sharing all of this, it's really looking at the biggest perspective possible that we can play with. And by going into that non-polarized state and that level of clarity, the highest aspect of you gets triggered and activated, so that you actually can start changing the gamescape or the reality that you're playing, which is also facilitating this whole transformation that's going on. So one of the topics tonight, I mean, I have the thing on my PowerPoint here, which I kind of have little notes, but one of them is we're going to talk a little bit more about the ego. We're going to talk about some of the polarity stuff that we are still giving power to it. This one. Then the following episodes, each episode, and it's going to go for a while because I've got many pages of different topics to cover. Plus, I will be addressing questions that people answer, so I can make a topic for each of them to kind of help them have their clarity around it. So the purpose that we're putting it out there, and we're not going to put money as a barrier saying, okay, only people that are going to pay for this can watch it. I'm making it free. It's on 3 of my Facebook pages, which is my personal page, my public page, and also the group page, which is called Advancing Consciousness Series. And the reason the group page is there is that so that there's no other postings on there. It's only the series, and you can follow it through easily. But it's also on YouTube, and I have a YouTube channel now. I have my own personal YouTube channel, which is Franco DeNicola, but I have another YouTube channel, which is called Advancing Consciousness Series, and only those videos go there. So anybody who wants to use the YouTube.
Very cool.
And then there's a channel in Vimeo that is also has the same name, Advancing Consciousness Series, with only that. Plus I also have a Franco DeNicola one there. So there's several modes to get it out there so that people have access to it. So they use it for themselves. It's really giving them information and so forth. Now, I do ask if people feel conducive to do so for financial support of some sort to help us pay for everything and to support ourselves a long way. The intent to put all of this stuff out there so that we can reach a lot of people. That means a little bit more work on my end, which, you know, means I'm doing less sessions now. And so the resources of that is going to be reduced. So we were asking that part. But the other thing is too, the other parts on the project right now is a blog and also a podcast, which will come in online within the next few weeks. I'm working out the details for that. But then also working with yourself in the station that you're coming up with that, you know, is coming along. So really the purpose of all of this is to facilitate right now with all this that's going on in any way possible. And, you know, a lot streams through me from my own higher self or soul at this point, that it's gotten to a point where I can't say, okay, I have to wait. And even though I wanted to launch this like almost a year ago or more, it always felt, I always kept going, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. But then all of a sudden it was like, on a Friday, you're starting Monday. It's like, whoa.
Isn't that how it works? Isn't that how it works? Morgan and I were talking last night about the same type of thing with, you know, the things that we're doing or involved in. And she says, you know, it's been there. It's like you're talking about, it's like in your field. And then there comes that moment when your just whole being just knows, like you've got to go do it. And it's usually on a very short notice.
Yeah.
You know?
And
so,
we didn't have all the technology sorted out. So we had a lot of glitches and so forth. We're getting closer. I mean, hopefully tonight will be even a better one, which will be in an hour and a half. Without the glitches part. I mean, the content is great. Everything that's going out is exactly what we need to do. And there's no glitches in that. But the glitch has been technology wise, you know, getting it out there and then getting dropped and not, you know, I got kicked off a few times on different platforms, whatever else. Now, some of it was because we were having internet problems. Part of it was because of the fact that we didn't have the codes and stuff like that was necessary for on track, because we were trying to do too many at once. But I think we got it sorted out now. We'll see.
So I want to point out to everybody that the first session picked up 20,000 views within like 24 hours. The second one was about 15,000. This is not a reflection on what Franco and Kimberly are putting out. There's a real suppression in the social media platforms, the traditional ones, and you know, to the point where I looked at your fifth or sixth one or one of the six ones, and it was just in the hundreds.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying this to anyone that's here live now or on the replay, to please don't underestimate the power of one unique and equal soul and the contribution you can make, which doesn't always have to be monetary. It can be resources, and it can also be sharing the hell out of something. To stay above these algorithms and even engaging the particular video or session series is to make a comment, because when you make a comment, it does, regardless of the way the apparatus is built at, say, Facebook, it does create more exposure to the post. So I just wanted to point that out, because it's a very powerful, in-depth, easy to understand series, and we fully support it. Yeah, it's a great thing.
And it's our pleasure to do it. And like you said, and I mentioned it also, it needs to come out now, and it was now. And that's it. That's all I was getting. It's now. Everything is prime. Everything is going. All right. We'll figure it out along the way. How we're going.
Isn't that what always happens? All
Yeah.
right. Well,
Like you say, by the seat of our pants, right? Type of thing, right?
Right on. All right. Well, you take care till the next time. I hope we can do this again soon. And I think
I think we're doing a couple of more this month. One with Kimberly that's coming up as the couple one. I think that's next week, and then we have another one near the end of the month. I think it's the 28th or something like that for us to play some more.
That's perfect. All right. I'll see you
later.
All right.
Thanks again.
Best of you and Kimberly. Take care, and
Thank
you very much.